Welcome to the Growing Athletes Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Suter. Join me on a journey to unlock potential, chase dreams, and lead authentically fulfilled lives. Together, we'll explore the powerful crossroads of sports, mindset, and personal growth. Prepare to become the next best version of you. I'm Amy Suter, and this is the Growing Athletes Podcast. Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you work or how well you do, there's still a voice in your head whispering, "You're not good enough"? Guess what? That voice is lying to you. Self-doubt is that inner voice. It's the hesitation before taking a big shot, the fear of failure before trying something new, and the belief that maybe you don't have what it takes, even when you do. You know you do. It creeps in when we compare ourselves to others, when we dwell on past mistakes, or when we let outside pressure define our worth. But here's the truth. Self-doubt is just a thought, not a fact, a thought. It's not a reflection of your ability or potential. A thought is simply a sentence in your mind. It's your brain's way of interpreting the world, making sense of experiences, trying to predict outcomes, and most importantly, it's just trying to keep you safe and comfortable. Safe and comfortable? You're probably asking yourself, how is putting these debilitating thoughts in my brain keeping me safe? In this episode, we'll break down where self-doubt comes from, how to reprogram your mind with practical steps to build inside-out confidence. Okay, let's go back to that point of those self-doubt thoughts, just being your brain's way of keeping you safe. Not real factual information, just thoughts. Why do I always focus on what could go wrong? Our brains, you guys, are literally wired to focus on what could go wrong. It's not a flaw, it's actually part of our survival system. See, our brain's primary job is to keep us safe and comfortable. And in order to do that, it has something called this negativity bias, meaning it gives more attention to the negative experiences, the threats and risks, than it does to the positive ones. See, thousands of years ago, this helped us as humans to survive. Think about it. If our ancestors ignored a potential threat like a dangerous animal, it was life or death. But if they overlooked something positive, like doing a good deed for someone, it didn't affect their survival. Fast forward to today, and we're not running from dangerous animals, but our brain still scans for danger as if we were. Now, the danger isn't a wild animal, it's failure, embarrassment, or judgment. So when you start thinking, what if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough? That's just your brain doing what it's wired to do, protect you from discomfort. But the problem is, without us understanding how our brains are wired, this negativity bias often makes us interpret all these thoughts as real, when in fact they're not. They're not real at all. They're just stories we're telling ourselves. One of the largest threats that our brains identify for us as humans is the threat to our belonging. Humans have always survived in groups. Being accepted, fitting in, and gaining approval were necessary for survival. Back in ancient times, if you were rejected by your tribe, by your people, you were alone, which meant you were in real danger from those dangerous animals. So over time, our brains have evolved to avoid anything that might cause rejection, like failing publicly, or being judged by your coaches, teammates, fans, or even the people who love you. Now, when you feel self-doubt, this fear of failure before a game, a school presentation, or even in the middle of a competition, that's your brain trying to protect you from failure because it associates failure with rejection, embarrassment, and survival. But in reality, failures in today's world isn't life-threatening. It's actually the path to our success. The problem is, if we don't recognize this, we can let the fear of failure create limiting beliefs that keep us stuck for a very long time. It keeps us from doing the hard things that are on our path to success, the path to reaching our potential. Let's talk about one more survival mechanism. One of the fastest ways to fall into self-doubt? Comparison. And today, it's everywhere, in your sport, in the classroom, and especially on social media. Your brain is constantly evaluating where you stand in comparison to others. It looks at teammates, competitors, friends, and influencers, And instead of focusing on your progress, it zeroes in on what you lack. Yes, it's another survival instinct. It helped our ancestors determine their place in a group and whether they needed to improve to stay competitive. But now, instead of comparing for survival, we're comparing for validation. We scroll through Instagram, finding the highlights of other people's successes, their perfect days, perfect plays, and their perfect lives, and forget that social media is not reality. We don't see the hard days, the struggles, or the self doubt that everyone experiences. This constant comparison feeds these self doubt thoughts. And you guys, a thought repeated over and over again becomes a belief. A thought repeated over and over again becomes a belief, a limiting belief. We hear them. I'm not as good as them. I'll never be successful. I don't have what it takes. The truth, not these thoughts creating self doubt, but the truth is your worth isn't measured against anyone else. The only person you need to compare yourself is to the version of you from yesterday. Freedom and fulfillment come from running your own race. All right, let's look at an example of this self-doubt stuff. I have a young basketball player that I'm currently coaching. He's pretty athletic, he's a good shooter, especially from the outside, and he makes most of his lay-ins at practice. In a game, every time this kid gets a steal or receives a pass on a fast break, he pulls up for a jump shot, rather than just finishing with a lay-in. I asked him why. His response? I always shoot it too hard and miss my lay-ins. I can only imagine that the moment he steals the ball at half court and starts into his dribble towards the hoop, the thoughts probably begin. You can't make lay-ins, you shoot too hard. You'll get swatted. Just pull up for a jump shot. We now know where these thoughts of self-doubt come from. Fear of failure that he will miss, and how embarrassing would that be? If you missed an easy lay-in? If he can't make lay-ins, how would he be looked at by his coaches, his teammates, and even his family members? His mind is using old survival instincts, trying to protect him from the discomfort of possible failure, and therefore embarrassment. Problem is, that wiring in his mind is outdated, and it's no longer serving him. This repeated thought has created a limiting belief of, I can't make lay-ins. So how do we break free from these limiting beliefs that have been created by these thoughts that aren't even real? Now that we know why our brain creates self-doubt, with some awareness, we can start taking back control, reprogramming our mind. Let's walk you through how to become aware of these negative thoughts. Tell yourself a better story, which will shift your mindset and start creating better beliefs, which will not only make you feel better, but will also allow you to reach potential. Remember, self-doubt is just a thought. Thoughts can be changed, and repeated thoughts become beliefs, new empowered beliefs. Step 1 is awareness. Researchers say that we have up to 60,000 thoughts a day. Now, I'm not asking you to try and become aware of every thought that passes through your mind. However, I am going to ask you to pay attention to your feelings. Yes, your feelings, because this is our alarm system as humans. For example, if you're preparing for a competition and you're feeling less than, feeling like you're not good enough, this is an indication that those self-doubt thoughts are absolutely running in your mind. Now we have to pay attention. Take inventory of those thoughts, and remember, this is probably your mind in survival mode, trying to protect you from failing, or perhaps from being embarrassed. Now, thanks to our feelings, we've become aware of these thoughts. Step 2 is to question them. Is this story I'm telling myself about these thoughts serving me, my team, or anyone else? If the answer is no, which it usually is, then tell yourself a better story. This is step 3. Tell yourself a better story. Side note, if you haven't already checked out episode 2 of this podcast called Change Your Story, do it. I go in depth on how to do exactly this. Now, when you tell yourself a different story, you are utilizing self-talk to create a new thought, a much better version. And remember, repeated thoughts become beliefs. This is how we exchange our limiting beliefs for the new empowered ones. And the final step, step 4, is the most important. Do the thing anyway, even when it's uncomfortable. Show your mind that you can do hard things and that the old survival instincts are outdated. Perseverance through failure is what leads you to your success. So, what can we do to help my basketball player? We can teach him that the moment he feels anxiety, fear, less than, he needs to take inventory of those thoughts. Remember, step one is awareness. Those thoughts. You can't make lands, you shoot too hard, you'll get swatted, just pull up for a jump shot. Next, he must question them, which is step two. Is this story he's telling himself about not being able to make lands serving him or his team? No. Then he must tell himself a better story. Step three. Sometimes I miss my jump shots too. What's the difference? Seems like my lands have a higher percentage chance of going in. I'm going to make my lands just like I do in practice. See, this is a much better story. And the final step, step four, is the most important. Do the thing anyway, even when it's uncomfortable at first. Remember, you are reprogramming your mind. It's going to need references of you doing hard things over and over to get comfortable with failure. Remember, it's wired for survival instincts and doesn't want you to fail because failing used to mean death to our ancestor and our minds. So he did it, step four. He stopped pulling up for jump shots and just continued to go for his lands. Of course he missed some of them. And guess what? He survived. And better yet, over time, created a new empowered belief of making his lands, which is leading him to becoming the person who can reach his potential. Okay, in review. Our minds are programmed to protect us from discomfort and therefore must scan our surroundings and bring to us, through thought, all the ways we can fail, be embarrassed, and not fit in. Hence, self-doubt. That darn thought of, what if I'm not good enough? Now we know this voice of self-doubt has been lying to us all along. It's not the truth, not the facts. It's just a thought. And we know what to do. The moment you feel any negative feeling, ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? Take an inventory of your thoughts. What is the story you've created about these thoughts? Is it serving you? No. Then change your darn story. Do this over and over again because remember, repeated thoughts become beliefs and repeated good thoughts become new empowered beliefs. That will bring you success. And finally, step four. Do the thing, right? Do the hard things. And failure is okay. Failure is the path to our success. We are reprogramming our minds to understand that failure is part of the practice. It's part of our success path. There you go. Reprogramming your mind in action. Now, if this is exciting to you and you want more, I've created a confidence reboot workshop. Reprogram your mind for success that you can do online on your own time. It usually takes about 45 minutes. You can check that out at amysuiter, amysuiter.com/confidence workshop. amysuiter.com/confidence workshop. I am so grateful you chose to spend your time here with me today. Thank you. To learn more about growing athletes and to get access to today's show notes, visit me at amysuiter.com. Always remember, both you and your athletes have everything you need inside of you to achieve anything you set your minds to. So go out there and pursue those dreams relentlessly. And keep in perspective, it's who you become on this journey that really matters, as our dreams will always expand at the exact same rate as our personal growth. I love you all, and I will talk to you next week.